The Hornets making a deal at the NBA trade deadline on Thursday, trading Ish Smith, Vernon Carey, and a future second-round pick to Washington for big man Montrezl Harrell. We're going to welcome in our guy Walker Mehl from Locked On Hornets, who's had plenty to talk about over the last few days. And at one point, Walker, I wasn't sure that the Hornets would make a deal. In fact, the days leading up to it, we just didn't hear much about it. But I'll start with this with Montrezl Harrell, just from an eye test standpoint. Every time that dude played against the Hornets, he ate. He does not get pushed around, so now he can do their pushing.
Well, and this is the thing, too. The Charlotte Hornets have always needed a defensive presence inside. That was the number one thing you wanted to check off. And that's not what they did with Montrez. So I don't want to get it twisted, right? They've always needed to have that foundational piece of protecting the rim, protecting the paint. Montrez doesn't do that. A little undersized, plays power forward, will play a lot of five. And Mitch Kupchak talked about that in media availability, probably going to play more so center. Here's the thing though, Nick, he ate because he's so good offensively down low. This guy is an elite finisher. You talk about his 79% at the rim. And if you even look a little beyond that, that's something that's going to help the Hornets a lot. He shoots about 54% from that 3 to 10 foot range. Mason Plumlee only shoots 40, a dramatic increase there. And PJ Washington, when he plays at the 5, only shoots about a little above 20%. So you've got somebody that is able to score in the paint, finish at the rim at a high level. It's something that this Hornets team has desperately needed. And if he doesn't hit, he might just get fouled, go to the free throw line, and hit above 70% of those foul shots, which we know is something else that this team desperately needs at the 5 spot, with Mason Plumlee getting a lot of those minutes. The more I look at this deal, the more I think that an offensive center will really help this team, especially when they're struggling so much from deep.
Okay, so let's continue down that path then, because the Hornets are so live and die by the 3 right now, and they don't have Gordon Hayward, Cody Martin, and others to kind of hit that mid-range shot. So how does this help Charlotte? Hopefully the 3 comes back. We assume it will at some point. Need it. But how does it help kind of mitigate that live and die mentality?
LaMelo Ball is your primary pick and roll handler. And so when you put him in a 2-man game with Montrezl Harrell, somebody that finishes so well at the rim, that's one way to create offense when nobody is shooting the ball well right now. Kelly Oubre has taken a plunge, didn't hit any threes in this last game against Chicago. Well, he did against Chicago and then had the 0 for 8 performance even before that. Just hasn't been hitting at quite the same rate. Terry Rozier, not exactly hitting at the same rate either. We know the Hornets have not been good from deep here recently, and that's what has allowed them to have this 6-game losing skid. But now you can find somebody that provides a little bit of a different offensive punch. So when you're talking about the slip, right? When you have that pick and roll with LaMelo, just have a little slip pass, and Montrez can either finish anywhere 10 feet in, and he can do that at a much higher rate than anybody else on the Charlotte Hornets roster. It's just a way to get easy baskets when you're struggling offensively. And Nick, when you're talking about Gordon Hayward being out, Mitch Kupchak said they expect him to be out for a while. You don't have any clarity on Cody Martin. You don't have any clarity on Jalen McDaniels when they can come back. The more I look at it, the more I think that this can really help them at least make that push for certainly keeping your play-in spot, but also even with the playoffs seeming like a reach, at least you continue to put the pressure on teams that also made moves at the deadline looking to get that last 6 spot in.
Does Montrezl Harrell start at the 5? And how does just this affect rotations in general?
It's a good question. I think that he probably does. Maybe not tonight, as long as all of the physicals check out. Yeah. Mitch Kupchak did say that Montrez would be ready to go against the Detroit Pistons. And I don't know if there's any of this, let's try to bring Trez on slowly and continue to have Mason Plumlee start. But I do think Montrez is the better player. He certainly leaps and bounds better offensively. And when you talk about him starting at the 5, pushing PJ Washington to the 4, where he hasn't been great this year, Miles Bridges more so to the 3, it gets a little interesting. I actually think PJ deserves more chances at the power forward spot. They've just needed him to play so much center this season because Mason is the only other guy that you trust. Nick Richards would get spot minutes here and there, but PJ was, to me, the best center on this team. But he's talk about undersized, right? PJ is kind of that stretch guy. And so I wonder if now that you have Montrez providing an offensive punch, you can still spread the floor out for him, still spread the floor out for LaMelo and Trez to run that 2-man game. PJ maybe doesn't have to put the ball on the deck as much as maybe you would consider a stretch four every once in a while, but still just, hey, hit your 39% from three. That's his game. I think that's what probably the rotation would look like. So LaMelo, Terry, that's your starting backcourt. Miles Bridges certainly going to be starting at the 3 and 4, along with the Gordon when he comes back will be interesting. And then PJ coming off of the bench, probably playing more 4, especially with Mason coming off the bench at the center position. Borrego has options, Nick. Like, I think you do have some versatility that you have with this roster bringing in Trez.
So let's talk defensively. I know you said he's not the best paint or rim protector. That's clearly what this team is going to need going forward. This is a shorter term move with, you're not mortgaging as much. So it's a good pickup, I think. But he just seems to at least bring a mentality of not backing down and toughness and veteran toughness.
Well, I mean, how many times did Kupchak talk about his energy and passion when he was speaking with the media? That's all he seemed to do. And so when you talk about Montrezl Harrell at least providing something on that end of the floor, he's not gonna be able to stop everybody that way, but there is going to be this boost of energy. And when Montrez brings that, I think this is a team that maybe can utilize that and really help them going forward in for the rest of the season. It's something Mitch Kupchak really wanted to address. And you talk about the contract just real quickly. Montrez's contract expires at the end of this season. That's going to help Kupchak and company spend money on Miles Bridges, who's going to get paid a handsome amount. Also, Cody Martin, is there a chance that you can keep him now? And you get the inside track and the early bird rights on Montrez, which gives you a little bit of an advantage. And if you want to move on, look for that defensive-minded center, then that's what that allows you to do. So it's a good rental to just go all in on offense with this team. And if it doesn't work out, or even if it does, but not at the price you want to pay him, then you move on, and then you allocate that money towards more foundational pieces that allow you to get to the postseason outright next year, and then try to continue to move up the staircase as they've been doing the last couple of years.
All right, last question is, 2 players for 1, so there's an open roster spot. I know some people tweet eyeball emojis at that and what's coming next? What do you envision that could possibly be?
Well, Ish Smith is another reason why I like this deal. I love it, right? Another reason why I like it is because you didn't give up a ton. You gave up Vernon Carey, who was never going to be a part of the future plans for Charlotte. You gave up Ish Smith, and you gave up a second round that I think right now we don't have the full details, the year or the protection. Ish Smith is probably the most valuable thing you gave up as far as what helps you on the court this year. He's come in and really helped you in some spots. Very first game against Indiana, comes out and gives you double-digit scoring. In fact, 3 of the first 5 or 6 games they played, Ish Smith unexpectedly scored 10 points or more. Was a big savior in that Lakers win that they had when they played against Russell Westbrook when he went off in the second half. And so you got some good moments from Ish Smith this year as that 3rd, 4th string ball handler coming in to help you out in the backcourt. I think with that open roster spot, you do need to address it with some kind of backcourt mate. James Bouknight, I do expect to get more minutes as the season has gone on. I think Bouknight will probably be that 3rd string combo / point guard, LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, then James Bouknight. Cody Martin comes back. We'll see how he fits into that equation. I think that's how I would spend my open roster spot. Go find some ball handling, maybe go find just a lead guard that can help if Cody Martin is out for a while, if James Bouknight is a rookie, still has some growing pains, and just to try to give LaMelo and maybe Terry a break. That's how I would spend my open roster spot.
Does this move signal to you that it could spark a big run and getting into a solid playoff spot, or does this kind of stabilize things when things were, going in the wrong direction?
Yeah, that's probably a good word. It probably helps more so stabilize it. Look, the Hornets are capable of playing good basketball. In a perfect world, the Hornets are not going to be shooting this poorly. At some point, the sample size and the law of averages is going to level out. And if that's the case, then all of a sudden, let's say the Hornets go back to being a top 5 shooting team, which, by the way, they still are overall in the season, despite this awful stretch, which goes to show you just how hot they were. So let's say they get back to a top 5 shooting team, and Montrez is able to continue to hit at the clip he is right now at the rim, get to the foul line, and hit those free throws too. This offense is going to be maybe even better than what it was. That's what the Hornets did. They went all in on offense. Defense, they're going to continue to give up a lot of points. So if that's the case, then yeah, Charlotte can really make a run, maybe flirt with the 6th spot. But the other problem with that is that Toronto went all in. So they traded a first round pick for a veteran in Thaddeus Young. They made some moves to indicate they want to win right now. Going to be tough to catch the Raptors, especially with them having beat you twice now. Going to be tough to catch Brooklyn, which was never really in the equation anyway. Brooklyn is going to soar after being a game up right now, game and a half up of Charlotte. All the teams outside, even Boston, made some moves. And I like what they did with Derek White. They bring back a familiar face in Daniel Tice. And so Charlotte made a move and everybody else made a move. And so with all of those other franchises looking to make a deal and pulling the trigger on that, I think that's what's going to be tough for Charlotte to maybe pass those teams, but not out of the question. I think more so your word is correct in helping stabilize. Just don't lose any more games. A 6-game losing streak is far enough.
Yeah, certainly is. We'll see about that tonight at Detroit. Walker Mehl, Locked On Hornets. Thanks for joining us as always.
It's always a blast, Nick. Thanks again.